You've got 90 days to build an entire communications function from absolutely zero. You've got no channels, no strategy, no roadmap, no plan. You've just got 90 days to figure it out. Does that sound impossible? I'm here to tell you it's not. I've done this many times. I'm an internal communication consultant and I'm here to help you. In this video, I'm going to share the process that really works that you can use if you want to build an internal comms function yourself in 90 days. I'll show you the exact steps I would take. No fluff. No academic theory, just practical, actionable steps that you can apply. I will share what I have learned over more than a decade of working in internal communications so that you can avoid lots of the mistakes that I made in my career. Before we jump in, you have one task to complete. I would love you to hit that subscribe button below. I would really love to grow this channel to 10,000 subscribers. So if this is your cup of tea, if you are an internal communications nerd like me, come on the journey with me, hit that subscribe button and let's go. Okay, 90 days. Let's break this down into 3 different phases of 30 days each. Phase 1, the first 30 days. So this could be if you are taking up a new job, or maybe you've moved inside your own organization, or you just think internal comms needs a fresh approach in your company. Let me start by telling you what you should not be doing in your first 30 days. There's an overwhelming temptation to jump right into action, isn't there? We need a new newsletter. Let's revamp the town hall. Let's introduce a new app. And there can be a real pressure to find quick wins, do things quickly and prove your worth. But here's the hard truth that I have learned over many years. Jumping into tactics straight away can backfire spectacularly because you don't yet understand the business or the business problems or the context you're working in or what the purpose of internal communication really is. So if you, in your first 30 days, jump immediately into tasks and activities and quick wins, then you could be spending a lot of time and energy on stuff that really doesn't matter. And potentially you can damage your credibility in the company quite a lot by delivering work that is not useful and that is not linked to company priorities. I've seen this happen, and trust me, the recovery from this takes a lot longer than 90 days. Here's what I want you to do instead. Take a deep breath and do something very counterintuitive in your first 30 days, which is slow down. Your first 30 days is actually nothing to do with communication. It's all about getting to understand the business context and the business priorities. You want to understand, what is this company all about? What is really important? How is internal communication really going to help this business to achieve what matters to it this year, next year, the next 10 years? One easy way you can start to do this is just schedule a meeting with your direct manager and have a conversation about the business strategy. What is the strategy for the company? What is the company trying to achieve this year? What is the plan for the next 5 years? What are those 3, 4, 5 top priorities for the leaders? What are the current challenges in the business? Are there any upcoming change or transformation programs you should know about? Any big milestones coming for the company? Start having that conversation. Start getting really, really curious about the company. And from there you can build on this and start meeting with other key stakeholders, other leaders, and having similar conversations with them. Find out what all these different stakeholders are working on, what their priorities are, and you'll start to build a little map in your mind of how these are all connected. And that's really all I want you to be doing in the first 30 days is listening, observing, understanding the business, reading everything that you can get your hands on. Just don't worry about communication yet. I know it sounds weird, but trust me, understanding the business is your first priority. The reason I really want you to do this is because this helps you then when you're building your strategy, is you have a really good understanding of what's important to the business, what's important to your leaders, what's going down the track, and you can build your strategy linked to all of that. If you don't do this, the risk is that you're going to build a comm strategy that you think is absolutely brilliant, and maybe it is great, but it's not linked to what's important to the business. And you're not going to deliver work that matters. You're not going to get that recognition that you want because you're kind of working in this little comms silo that's completely disconnected from the reality of the company. Things you can be doing in your first 30 days: read the company annual report, look back on any recordings of previous town hall sessions, sit in on meetings, leadership meetings if you can get in, and just listen and observe. Any strategy documents you can find on the intranet or through stakeholders, read them, mark them up. Anything that seems confusing to you, market, right questions. Your goal in this phase, in the first 30 days, is not to think about solving business problems with communication yet. It's simply to understand. This phase is about listening, observing, indulging your curiosity. Enjoy it. This is a lot of fun. Keep detailed notes during phase 1. You're going to need them all later. So that's your first 30 days. I cannot tell you how many communication professionals just skip this phase and jump right into communications. I know that's our happy space and that's what we love to do, but please, please, please slow down. First 30 days, understanding the business. Okay, you've done that job. Well done. By the way, if you don't skip that bit, well done. Let's look at phase 2, the next 30 days. So say days 31 to 60. By this stage, you've kind of started to get your head around what the company's all about, what's important to your leaders, what your CEO is trying to deliver on. This is really going to help you align all of your communication activity later on to these business priorities. Now you can start focusing more on the communication side of things in phase 2. And everything that you learn in phase 2, you're going to be looking at it through the lens of the knowledge you've got in phase 1. So you can see already the stuff is starting to build on each other. Phase 2 for me is about understanding how communication currently works in the company. You want to look at what channels are being used, what kind of messages are being shared, what kind of feedback are employees giving, what's working, what's not, where are the opportunities that you can see for improvement. We're in the communication zone now and you can really start honing your curiosity specifically on the communication that's happening in the organization. And really what I want you to do in this phase is to build what we call a baseline. A baseline is simply you're capturing how things are now. Rather than trying to change things straight away, you're really just making a documented assessment of where are we starting from. This is really important because once you start making changes, you want to measure your progress, right? You can't measure how far you've come if you don't know where you started. So this bit's really important. So in this phase, you can do what's sometimes called an internal communications audit, which simply means a review. You really want to understand how does information flow around the organization? How do employees get the information they need? What kind of stuff are leaders talking about? How do employees feel about everything? Now, this sounds like a lot. I know it can sound overwhelming. Now, if you have a giant budget and you don't have the time to do any kind of review yourself, you can outsource this completely and hire a consultant and they will come in and do all this for you and then give you a report at the end. Now, I'm a consultant, but I actually don't really recommend this approach because I feel like it takes you too much out of the process and you're kind of handing it over to somebody else. I think there's so much value in doing this by yourself, even if it's on a smaller scale, because you're so much more immersed in the process and you're really listening and learning firsthand. And it makes it so much easier when you stand up in front of your leaders at the end of it and you're explaining what's going to change and why. It's so clear for you, like you have all the evidence in your head and in your report about what needs to change. I just feel like you'll learn so much by doing it yourself. If this is something that you would like to do, but you're like, well, that sounds fine, but how the hell do I do that? I don't even know where to start. I'm going to put a link down below for a resource I have on my website. It's an internal comms audit playbook. It's basically a collection of templates and checklists that you can use to audit your channels and content specifically. You can do it by yourself. This is built to be a DIY audit playbook so that you don't need to outsource it. You can do it yourself. I'm going to put that link down below so that you can download that for yourself. Because this guide will tell you what kind of data to collect, what kind of questions to ask, what you should be looking at, how you should be doing it. It's a really structured approach. You can do it completely by yourself and you can also use it again and again every single year. Something else you can be doing as part of this audit in phase 2 is look at what existing data there is in your organization. Does your HR team have an employee engagement survey that you can have a look at the results? Can you get access to exit interview transcripts or data to see why are people leaving the company and are there any comments in those interviews about communication specifically that would be really useful for you to know? Can you get your hands on any metrics for the channels you already have, any employee feedback? Anything that's really going to help you build that baseline, that solid picture of where are we now? Where are we starting from? And another thing you can be doing in this phase is you can simply go and speak to employees. This is like my favorite thing about internal comms. It's that closeness you can have with the audience. Your employees are right there. Go and talk to them. You want to understand the different employee segments. So maybe you have people that sit at desks, you have other people that are out on the road, you have other people that are in a manufacturing plant. You want to get a sense of like, where are they getting their information? What kind of channels are they using? How do they feel about it all? What does their day look like? Are there any obvious missed opportunities in terms of how we could be communicating with them that we're not using right now? You can do this in lots of different ways. You can go and run focus groups with people. You can do informal listening tour where you go and just have coffee with people. You can shadow people at work. You can just observe them as they go about their day. That sounds a bit creepy, but I promise it doesn't have to be. This will really help you build that picture of where are we starting from now, or what's working, what's not. The goal in phase 2 in this 30 days is really to build quite a nuanced, rich understanding for yourself of how does communication work in the company right now. So this is not aspirational. You're not forward thinking yet. You're just looking at how's everything going right now. And you're going to be starting to think about, is this helping or hindering the progress that we want to make towards the business goals that we looked at in phase 1? So that's phase 1 and phase 2. By now your brain is going to be half exploding with like a bajillion ideas, and you're going to begin to connect the dots between all of these things. Now you're ready to move into phase 3. So this is day 61 to 90, I guess. And this is where you're going to start putting all of this together and building yourself an internal communication strategy. And your strategy should be driving business success, which you learned about in phase 1, through effective communication, which you learned about in phase 2. So phase 3 is like the marrying stage. You're bringing it all together. Now your strategy should make it really, really clear what you're trying to achieve and why that matters to the business. It's not just a list of activities or tactics. That is not a strategy. Your strategy should have very clear objectives that make logical sense when you think about the business priorities they're supporting. And your strategy should also be really measurable. So how are you going to know if you've achieved these or not? What is your measure of success for each of those objectives? And if you use the SMART framework for building your objectives, you can't go too far wrong. If building an internal communication strategy is new to you and it sounds a bit overwhelming, because I know strategy is one of those words that like frightens people. I've been there, don't worry. If that's you and you're like, I don't really know how to do that, then you need to get on my newsletter. Because as I'm filming this in February 2025, I am currently building a course that will teach you how to create and design your own internal communication strategy. So the people on my newsletter are going to hear about that course first. I will put the link down below. So subscribe there. I'll let you know once that course is ready. And I'm building this course because I don't want people to feel like, oh, strategy is so complicated and I could never do it and it's only for like people with 20 years of experience. Nonsense. Creating a comm strategy is actually a really enjoyable, rewarding exercise, at least if you're a bit of a nerd like me. And your strategy will clearly outline how is internal communication going to help the business succeed? What specific objectives are we going to focus on? How do we know that these are the right priorities? What's the trade-off? What are we not going to do in order to let us focus on this? How are we going to measure all of this? How are we going to prove that this has been worthwhile and impactful for the business? That's what your strategy is going to outline. And if you can get that right, you're just setting yourself up for years of success. And you'll be able to move from that kind of message distributor to that strategic partner that you really want to be. So that's phase 3, you're done. That's your 90 days. If I had to build an internal comms function from scratch in 90 days, that is exactly what I would do. The first 30 days I would learn about the business. The next 30 days I would learn about communication. And in the final 30 days, I'd bring it all together into a strategy. This is a really focused approach that helps you get leadership buy-in, gets you the support and the resources that you need to succeed. If you found this helpful, drop a thumbs up down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll see you the next time.